Hello friends, Mike here from Job Ready English. Happy 2024. This is our first video that I've filmed for 2024. Happy New Year from myself, everybody at the Job Ready English team, and of course, Atlanta Big Bum, the dog who also celebrated 1 year old on January the 4th. So I wanted to make this video because we're about midway through January and I tend to come across two types of people in consultations and emails when people reach out to me. And this has pretty much been the same since I started coaching in 2013. Either people want to change careers or people realise that they need to do a bit more because what they did the last year isn't really working. So I want to lay out two fundamental pieces of advice that have really not changed that much since I started coaching. I would say probably after coaching for around a year, 18 months, I refined a method, a framework that I would use time and time again. Everybody is different, but it would be adapted, and this is really what I want to take you through. First of all, just to outline the framework, just give you some markers to think about if you're struggling in your process or you're just about to engage in the process for the first time or again of getting a job, and just a second kind of key piece of information that adds on top of this. Knowing the fundamentals is really important because if you're doing the wrong things anyway, then nothing's going to work. It's like throwing darts in the dark. And the fundamental process that I take people through is, first of all, have an application plan. So what you want to do is take the afternoon. This was an idea that I got from the 2-hour job search. Take one afternoon, take you sort of 2-3 hours and just get an Excel list or Google Sheet, write down 50 companies that you want to apply it for, get the URLs for all of their careers pages, any deadlines that you kind of need to set yourself. The reason why this is very useful is because when people kind of fit in looking for a job in and around their life, what tends to happen is that they will just do the easy things that make them feel like they've done something, but probably are not yielding the results. A classic example of this that I hear a lot is one-click applying on Indeed and LinkedIn. People will sit there for sort of 10, 20, 30 minutes. They'll get that feeling that they've done a lot because they've one-click applied for lots of jobs. But as I've learned over time, what's easy for you is easy for everyone else, and what's easy for everyone else therefore makes it hard for you. So what you really have to think is what I'm doing working? Generally not. It's better to apply through the companies themselves because you're only having to go through one filter instead of two, i.e. say for example PwC is advertising a job on Indeed, you would have to go through the Indeed filter and then go through the PwC filter. Whereas if you just applied for PwC directly, then you only have to go through one filter, thus increasing your chances of getting through the initial stage. Once you have that, the next thing that you really want to do is make sure that you diarise some time, just schedule aside some time, and I would suggest a small amount of time as possible. You want to make this a winnable game, particularly if you don't already have the habit. When you don't have the habit, what people tend to do is sort of driven by that guilt of not having done enough previously. They will then try and do way too much and just give up after a week or two. New Year's resolutions and fitness is a really good example of that. So you'll see loads of people running in the first week of January and then less in the second week, less in the third week, and then come February, most people have given up running at all. Is it because they can't run? No, not at all. It's generally because they haven't done something simple. Like in the UK, there's a great app called Couch to 5K, which is really simple, slow and steady to progress someone from doing no running at all to running a 5K in 3 months. Now 3 months is really quite a short space of time, but most people will rush and probably go and run a 5K as soon as they possibly can. And they ended up just feeling tired, getting injured and just not wanting to do it anymore. You want to make this process as simple as possible because you want to feel like you are winning the game that you are playing. When it basically feels like you're always losing or you're always failing, mentally and emotionally, it kind of brings us to this place where we think, I can't be bothered, I don't want to do it anymore. It then becomes that there is a lot of friction to doing that process, and we just end up putting it to the side. So when you're scheduling the time, just think, what's the smallest amount of time I could give to looking for a job each week that I would find incredibly easy. This is something that was popularized through the great book Atomic Habits by James Clear. He talks about his, I believe, the 2-minute rule, where he gave an example about if you want to go running, then just put your trainers by the door, put your trainers on, go for a walk over the space of a week, you know, just very small things that you find easy to do, because by making micro adjustments over time, you'll find yourself doing a hell of a lot more than you thought possible by making small changes over time, rather than trying to do it all at once, because it's just too much mentally for most people to do and sustain over a period of time. The next thing that you really want to do is outline the things that you can do in the time that you have. Now, realistically, this kind of comes down to sort of 5 or 6 tasks, depending on whether you're watching this, you're a graduate or professional, which is getting your CV done and then amended as and when for different job roles, cover letters and application forms, online tests, interviews and assessment centres. It's really kind of those 5 things plus finding vacancies. Now, it's really important that you find the time each week to look at what I would call pipeline. Anybody who works in sales, business development, recruitment will be familiar with this terminology. Pipeline basically means a line or a pipe of existing or new opportunities that seem hopeful. Now, when you're applying for a job, if you put yourself in the mind of the employer, apart from big graduate employers, but even then being early is best, the early bird gets the worm and all of that, what you really want to think about is when an employer is advertising for a job, they need somebody now. If you imagine, you know, Steve has got a small accountancy firm and he's looking for a new junior accountant that he can train, he needs somebody now because he's already got too much work to do himself. Speaking as a small business owner myself, I can certainly attest that the times when I will be looking for a member of staff, it's not for me to go, well, it would kind of be nice to have somebody. I'm like, oh my God, we're losing money or we're not servicing our existing business and clients well enough. We need somebody right now. So you want to be applying for jobs that are less than 7 days old. And if you've got that application plan, you'll already have your kind of golden 50 list of companies you want to apply for. You've got all of the links there. So you can just click, go and look at their careers site and go, ah, that risk management job is new. I'm going to apply for that. And the chances are greater that your application is going to get seen and get pushed through the process because they want to get as many potentially viable candidates as possible. The rest of this is all fairly kind of straightforward. So if it's to do with anything up to getting an interview, if you check out the link in the description below, which has our free downloads for 28 most common questions and other free stuff to help you get your first interview, we've kind of got everything there. CV template, cover letter template, application planner, all of those things. Because I think as a service to you guys, the best thing that I can do to help you is to get your first interview or your next interview. Now, when it comes to online tests, I highly recommend, if you know that you're going to have to sit online tests, that you use a paid test provider. The reason being is it's not that there aren't free tests available on the internet. The problem is the amount of time that you have to put into finding those free tests and whether those tests are realistic or applicable to the type of test that you're going to be doing in real life. So recently I sat down and had a coaching session with a professional sports person, and he really understood the meaning of what I call train hard, compete easy, which is you want to make your practice as realistic as possible, because there's no point practicing something. Say for example you're practicing mathematics that would be good for an 11-year-old, and then you take a test that's aimed at a 14-year-old, you're going to feel the difference, right? It's going to have given you a false sense of confidence, but what happens is it's already too late. If anything, your practice should be as difficult, if not more difficult, than the actual thing that you're going to be doing. Because then when you get to the real thing, you should get there and kind of feel like, ah, this is fine, I feel prepared. Not like, oh my God, this is so much more difficult than I thought it would be. That's why past papers are so popular. And really a lot of the stuff that you've learned when you go through your academics can be applied here. But people would tend to rely on, book reading, video watching. They won't lean into the difficult things, particularly if you're watching this that you find that you get shy or anxious, you struggle to speak to other people. What I always say is, look, it is an inevitable part of the process. The sooner that you eat the frog, that you bite this off and you kind of face the resistance, that's a reference to The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, then the sooner that you find that you're going to get better at that thing. A lot of it comes from the fear of the unknown or from previous bad experiences. So what I tend to suggest is two things for people who kind of struggle to get on with, you know, other people or speak to other people. And of course, lockdown and COVID didn't help, which is either go to meetups or meetup.org or go and do volunteering one afternoon a week. When I first started coaching, most of my clients were young Chinese women, sort of between the ages of about 19 and 24. And what I would get them to do is go and do volunteering one afternoon a week. The reason being is they really enjoyed it because they get to buy loads of stuff for cheap. The people that they were working with were quite friendly. They tended to be, you know, the elderly, so they were really nice to get on with. They didn't feel pressured. They found it was a really easy way for them to grow in confidence and their ability to communicate, and in some cases just to improve their English language skill in general. And also it was a small enough commitment that they could fit it in around their other commitments, because they were by their very nature, you know, quite ambitious, really hardworking, really studious. A lot of time, particularly when I'm dealing with graduates, but also professionals, the problem is not that they're not hardworking, ambitious and studious, it's just that they're avoiding the elephant in the room, which is the one thing that they don't want to do, which generally comes down to comms and speaking. The same can be said for practicing for interviews, the same can be said for practicing assessment centres. Because underlying all of these fundamentals is an ability to be really honest in your self-assessment. And a good rule of thumb for this is, what are you avoiding? Tim Ferriss had a great quote where he said, you know, the quality of your life can be greatly improved when you understand what are the conversations that you're avoiding. I find with most people it's conversations that they're avoiding with themselves around things that they're not very good at. People would like to do things that they're good at, particularly as you get older, because that makes you feel good. When you do things that you're bad at, you kind of are not good at them, and therefore it makes you feel not good. But the point is that to be good at something, you first had to be bad at it. Probably most of you watching this will have learned some sort of skill, have engaged in some kind of knowledge work, and initially you would have been bad and slow or inaccurate or used the wrong tools. But by you persisting with that thing, you got better, and then now you are good. And the same applies to the things that you want to do yourself. Now, for the kind of minutiae of digging into like interviews and assessment centres, you can check out our two most popular courses in the link in the description, which is Interview Success Secrets and Acing Assessment Centres. The thing that I would kind of keep on top of these fundamentals is volume. So a lot of times, if your strategy, your fundamentals are correct, then really it's just about turning up the dial. Alex Hormozi describes this really well, and he just kind of, in his most recent book, which is $100 Million Leads, for kind of advice at the front, it just says do more. And I think for a lot of people that's generally the case. As long as you're sure that what you're doing is the right thing. I tend to find batches of 10 to be really good for kind of appraising where you're at and having a look at the data. That's something that I would do when I used to do sort of premium coaching with individuals from zero to job. And you know, every couple of applications we'd like look at it and say, okay, what's working? Where are we getting results? Why are we getting those results? Why are we not getting results here? Because we find what works, and then we just do more of that thing. So it might be that you're applying too late, it might be that you're applying for the wrong jobs, it might be that you're not applying enough. But if you can have that level of self-awareness and kind of personal self-representation, as it were, to kind of look at yourself and what you're doing. Because the truth is, underpinning a lot of things, not just about jobs, but life in general, is that people kind of know what they should be doing. You know, if they want to get fit, they kind of know what they should do. If they want to lose weight, they kind of know what they should do. But it's moving past this resistance of just not doing it, which is just an accurate self-appraisal, good organisation and time management, and just pushing through that discomfort and recognising that when you get uncomfortable, this is good, because naturally it means that you are growing out of the person who you are today to become that person who you want to be, right? Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. We're looking forward to delivering some great content this year. There's a lot of updates coming in the things that we're going to be doing. We're currently going for a round of updates for our courses. Let us know what content you'd like to hear from us. Let us know how you're getting on and what your plans are for 2024. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.